Welcome everybody to this another very quick policy hack session, and we are going to talk about why Softex forms are not required or they are an obsolete instrument, and we are asking for removal of Softex form from government. So, what are the reasons why we are asking for removing Softex forms, especially for the software product industry? The second issue is about the TDS on software product. So that is another topic that we are going to talk about, why we are asking government to remove TDS on software products. So we have prepared a representation for removal of software products, Softex form, and also removal of TDS on software products. Now let us take these topics one by one, why we are asking for removal of Softex form on software products. Now, a quick introduction on Softex forms. Softex forms were introduced when the software export policy came up, which is commonly known as STP policy. And at that time it was introduced because many people in customs, which was responsible before introduction of STP scheme for any administration of exports or exports valuation, customs did not understand what software is, right? So that is the reason why the Softex form came in, and RBI wanted to know how much software exports have happened. That is going not from the physical ports, but from data communication links. If you send any goods from physical port, I mean, if you send some CDs as exports, then Softex form is not required. You have to probably sign the same forms which are required for the physical export, which are called as GR form, or there is a replacement of it, SDA form, which is being filed now. So Softex form is only required when you export using data communication link, that is through an internet or through a lease line. You kind of communicate software from India to outside India across the borders. Only then you need to file Softex form. Why a Softex form filed? Because a similar activity happens when goods are exported out of the physical ports. Physical ports could be an airport, it could be uh, a seaport, right? Or it could be a dry port, right? Or it could be a post office. We come from post office. Some people send, I mean, you can pack up a CD and send it through a post office as a post. So these are all physical ports. So if you send anything from physical port, the Softex form is not required. If you send anything from internet, the Softex form is required. So on the physical ports, there is an activity which RBI governs. That is, what is exported and did we receive back the foreign exchange or not? So for that purpose, for physical goods, there is no authority. It is the customs which governs it, right? They are the body who monitors it. In case of software, RBI thought because there is no physical port, so they assigned STPI as a role to start with to monitor software exports. Now, why RBI requires software exports to be monitored? Because they want to know how much export has happened and whether the money has come in or not, number one. Number two, they want to know whether the valuation is right or not, right? Valuation is not so much of a problem of RBI because it is more from the customs, angle that valuation used to happen. But let us see the two problems. One, RBI wants to know how much export has happened and whether you have received remittances against each invoice, each and every export invoice or not, and how much valuation, how much is the goods that are exported or software that is exported is valued at, right? And the normal issue is that you want to monitor that is not undervalued beyond a point or overvalued beyond a point, right? Now let us understand why we are asking removal of Softex form in software products. Now why we are asking for removal of software forms in software products is because after the GSTN system has come in, all the companies, it is not just the software companies, whether you are doing export of software or you are exporting any physical goods or you are exporting any services, right? For everything, we need to file a called as export invoice, a GST and export invoice, right? So people know that you have to file either an LUT with the GST department to export, and then you raise an invoice without payment of IGST, right? No GST duty is involved. You don't need to pay any GST duty because there is no GST on exports. But if you don't file an LUT, then you have to raise an invoice with IGST paid and you get a refund of IGST. So there is a complete process in the GST system that happens for export. That is how much you have exported. And RBI can hook up into GSTN system and immediately know that how much export has happened. And for everybody, for software, for consultancy, for everything that is exported. The second reason is the valuation part. In the software products, the products are already valued at something called as marked price or MRP, right? Or you have a price list, which may be revised 6 monthly, yearly, or once in 3 years or whatever, correct? But there is a price list, so there is a declared price of it, right? And you always sell on that price plus discounts based on the volumes that you are offering or any offers that you offer. These are also public, these are all declared. So there is nothing to valuate. So there is no valuation required in any of these, software product export. Therefore, the need of additionally going to STPI, apart from filing a software export invoice in GSTN system, is no more there, right? Either going to SCZ or STPI, because SCZ is another authority which signs or, kind of does the same process that the STPI does for the SCZ units. But normally STPI units and non-STP players go to STPI to file the Softex forms. So these two are the reasons, which explains why we are asking for removal of Softex forms as a provision for exporting software products, because it is not required. It is absolutely redundant administrative procedure now, and it also costs extra money apart from that is involved in kind of compliance with the GST and other such bodies where one has to go through. So I think I have summed up in very short, and if anybody wants to ask any question, I can answer on this part of the presentation.
Mr. Sudhir, thank you so much. This is Sriram from Referral Duty. I think from my side, we don't do much of software exports. I'm more interested on the TDS part of it. That's the reason why I'm remaining quiet.
Oh, okay. We will talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can go to the next part.
Sure.
Yeah. So let me go to the TDS part and why we are asking. I mean, it has been very long that we have been asking government to remove the TDS on software products. So, I mean, this is another side of story for the domestic market. This is kind of a hurdle for all software product companies. Now, why we are asking for removal is a very simple reason. If you buy a printer, or if you buy a shoe, or if you buy a mobile, either in a physical shop going to market or a mall, or going online to any of the online marketplaces, you don't pay any TDS. Do you pay any TDS? You don't pay any TDS. Now, why there is a TDS on software products, right? So this similarly, like, software products are products, except that they are intangible, right? Apart from that, I think they have all the properties of that any other goods have. I mean, they can be replicated fast. They are manufactured and sold to thousands of users, and I mean they have all the properties. We can go one by one, or that the goods possess. So except the intangibility. So that is why we are asking. There is an unnecessary provision which came in 2012 finance bill, and it actually started from capturing uh, tax being lost from the foreign players. So whenever somebody in India was buying a software from a foreign player, the government was losing tax because there was no uh, in, income tax captured from that income being generated by the foreign player. But then they also brought Indian companies into the net, which is very unjustified, because Indian companies are already subjected to filing all the returns annually on the income tax. They are also subjected to uh, paying advance tax wherever that is applicable, right? So they follow all the provisions and they are registered here. They are not going to run anywhere. You can always catch them, right? Most of the buyers of software already are, having PAN numbers, right? So the reasoning that you want to track people who are buying software because their PAN numbers will be captured if you ask for TDS, because the individuals need not do a TDS. It is only the business, when they will buy a software product, they need to deduct tax and pay after deducting the tax. So if there is a business, the business will already be registered. Their PAN numbers will already be there. So there is no need to do a paper trail track of whether the tax is paid by the other people or not. So that reasoning also doesn't apply. And in terms of the administrative burden for a software product company, it is too much, because the 194J provision, when it came, there was a pushback to the government, and they slightly, modified it. And mild modification they did is that uh, at the first point of the sale, the TDS will be deducted, and after that, in the chain of trade, it will not be. But this mild deduction, what it did is, then you had to necessarily create a distributor. So many companies went ahead and created uh, another company within the organization, which was monitoring all this TDS business, right? But for the mid-sized companies and for the small players, it is very, very difficult to create another entity in between to monitor all that. And as I said, if I buy a software product today as a business, if I buy a software product, go online, I should go online and very smoothly, without any hurdle, without any friction, I should be able to buy the software product. Why should there be a TDS on the product? So that is why we are, I mean, it is a big hindrance as far as trade is concerned. We know that whenever there is invoicing happening, people often deduct TDS. And then we have to go and explain them, although it is mentioned in the invoice that, according to this provision, and because of these reasons that we have taken care, you need not do a TDS. But it always happens every third day that there is a TDS. So uh, to remove this hurdle and actually provide a level playing field to the software product companies with other product companies to do the, uh, the software product trade happens in a flawless, smooth manner, you require the TDS to be removed. And we have been following with the government for very, very long. And for a very simple reason that once they start collecting tax, they don't want to give away with that part of the tax. Uh, I mean, it is not getting removed. So we are trying to pursue and take our case that, especially for the software product companies, the TDS should go away. So I think I have given my explanation. If there are any questions.
So hi, this is Sriram from Referral LB. Thank you, sir. I'm fully with you that yes, it's an hindrance, but I do have a set of questions. Okay, if I may, can I go one by one?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not about why we should keep it or anything like that, because I'm fully on board that it should be removed. But uh, given that we are an early stage startup and we sell software as a service, as a monthly subscription fee to our customers, as opposed to selling it as a license. I'm sure you must have, you must be aware of the SaaS model, where
Yeah.
you charge a monthly rent kind of a fee. I have few questions, and I'll go one by one. First, when you say software product, today what we do is my customers, sometimes they use that 194J and deduct 10% TDS and then pay me 90% of my invoice. And in a few cases, I've seen my customers, because we have a contract, they deduct 2% and give me 98%. So it's more from a clarity perspective. I never, because we are an early stage startup, and never knew which one was the right. And I'm told that it's always at the discretion of the chartered accountant at my buyer side and how they decide. So if I may ask you, sir, is 10% for SaaS is the right one, or 2% is the right one? My second question is, you alluded to the fact that first time they can do it and after that they don't have to do it. I didn't quite understand that part. I'm sorry if you have to educate me on this, but that's not the purpose of the session, but it will be nice if you can help me clarify these doubts.
You're definitely welcome, and maybe I can answer my perspective on this. Uh, but definitely, don't take it as a legal, perspective fully, but it's more of an industrial perspective that we normally take with people, and so it's not a legal advice. But from in iSPIRT, we treat all SaaS as software products, because the major part of it goes in developing the product. It is only the delivery part that it is uh, it involves the services, or where you call at as servicing the, the end user. So and that is the first thing that I would like to state on this. Secondly, as far as 2% and 10% is concerned, I think I am clear on that it is 10%, and it cannot be 2%, because 194J applies on software products, on software. And today, in the entirety of the legal aspect that the government understands, government uh, understands software, any software sale as license sale, as licenses, being provided to users, and therefore they treat it as under royalty, uh, provisions of sales, and therefore there is a TDS. So hence the 2% doesn't apply here. There is no contract. It is basically a sale of software. It may be on monthly basis, right, or yearly basis, but the subscription can vary. But it is a software sales. So we are asking on software. Even SaaS is included in our representation, and we are very forcefully saying SaaS is a product. I think you had one more part
So
of
I
the
wanted
question.
to know, so this 10% should apply across all the monthly invoices, right?
Yes,
Okay,
should
got
apply to all monthly invoice, and then you can understand now the pain,
it.
right?
Yeah,
When you sell online, how does that? Do you monitor that 10%? I mean, no other goods does it apply. Uh,
correct.
can you repeat the another? There was one more part of the question.
So you talked about creating another entity as a distributor, because we don't have anything like that, and uh,
Okay.
so I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah, yeah. So 194J, when it came, the software industry, I mean, gave a pushback to the government. This is going to create a lot of problems, and why have you brought in and all that? Government said, no, no, we are going to deduct. The only thing is, under the pressure, they said, okay, when you sell it to your, because the industry went back and said, there is a whole lot of uh, trading partners, the channels that we have distributors, resellers, like that.
Right.
So so government said, how will we monitor TDS, because it will cascade.
Hmm.
I will sell to my distributor, he will do TDS. When he will sell to the reseller, he will do TDS. He may sell to somebody else in between, he will do TDS, right? Like that. So government said, okay, we will remove cascading. First time you sell, whether you sell it directly to a end user, for example, in your case, perhaps they are all end users,
Right.
or you sell to your distributor, the first person who buys has to do the TDS. So therefore, the companies who were having substantial amount of volume of trade, they either had the distribution channels and they reconfigured those distribution channels, or they created an entity which was managing those entities. For example, I know in Joho they have another entity which does it. In case of, for example, in Tally, they already have channel partners. So they created distribution system, recreated, I mean, reconfigured the distribution system in a manner that there was one disti in every region who was responsible for doing the TDS, and then further in the chain, nobody else need to do the TDS. But even that is a big problem for a small player. How will he create another entity? How will he create distributors? Even for a mid-sized company, however, it's a big burden.
Right. Understood. Yeah. Are there any thresholds, sir? I know that the threshold is annual value of 30,000 rupees for TDS, right? Even for when you are going for a representation saying that remove TDS, are you asking for any particular threshold below which you remove TDS, or you are saying no blanket for all software products removed?
No, we are saying, as it should be similar for all products. So treat software product at par with other goods. You can sell it online, no TDS. You can sell it physically, no TDS. So no threshold. I mean, right, threshold came because they put it in 194J. 194J is for professional services.
That's correct. Yeah.
So the tax thinks that if you pay somebody more than 30,000 in a year, then he is earning heavily, because he may be earning from another 10 people, and therefore he needs to be taxed in advance because they are not able to tax them in advance. Correct.
Right.
But here, the businesses who are buying these softwares, they are going to use it as machines, as tools for some doing their business.
Correct.
Right. You don't charge TDS on any of those items that the businesses buy from other goods.
Correct. Understood.
So any more questions? I don't
No,
think.
I'm good for now. I'm really looking forward to this because I know.
Yeah, no, a lot of people are looking because we had a very short notice, so I don't think many people came up for this. But we have circulated
Right.
a
I've
presentation that
signed
we
that.
have
Yes.
taken.
I've
Yeah,
signed that as well.
yeah. So we thought we'll just do a quick video also on this, so that more people can, if anybody wants to understand from a video why this is required, and then they can use it and probably come on board and sign the representation.
Correct. Yeah.
So Nakul, if you're hearing anything you want to add up, or we can speak more on the subject?
So I think, Sudhir, you already very well covered why TDS on software needs to be removed, along with why Softex forms need to be removed. It'll also be good if you would like to share what are the various purposes of things which you're trying to do, both for product companies, and what are you trying to achieve through the software product policy as well.
Okay, so I think these are two main things, main hurdles as far as the ease of doing business is concerned for the small, especially for mid-size and small companies, definitely, right? For larger companies, they can create an entity and they can they can administer all that, because for mid-sized companies, it really creates administrative burden in terms of cost and a lot of headache, right? But there is another thing that we are trying to, which is a connected item, but we are not covering it here, which is about the HSN code to create any export invoice that you raise today. I mean, if you export anything, or if you sell anything even in Indian market as a business, you need to raise a GST invoice, right? So a GST invoice has a prescribed format or what you need to include over there. For the exports, there are more recommendations from the department that you need to include all these things, right? And what exchange rate do you apply, how the invoice, what all values have to be there in the invoice, all those things are there. Similarly, HSN code is also there. So normally for the physical goods export and import, HSN code is used to monitor and measure the international trade on ports. And it's a harmonized system of coding which every country normally has similar codes, not exactly 100% similar, but normally has in the same chapters they are covered. And for software products, the problem is that they treat it as services. So again, the similar problem that it is not being covered as product. So it's a connected item because once the HSN code issue is solved, it will probably be, helping us solve other problems on national system of accounting, measuring contribution of software product to the Indian software industry, um, many such things like that. So that is another thing that we are pushing right now. One more item that we are trying to take up with the government is giving preferred market access uh, to the software product industry, especially to the mid-size and small industry, and creating kind of a channel where the Indian MSMEs can buy from the Indian software product industries. We are also trying to create another mechanism where the public procurement in government uh, can be can kind of lean to buying software products instead of services, which today normally buys software services or projects. So that is another track which is happening. So these are a few important things which are happening. I think a lot of it cannot be covered in one talk, but we'll probably take up one by one in future with Nakul. Yeah. So we will wrap up this conversation today, right? And we'll post this video on our small blog on Policy Hack and our normal iSPIRT blog, so that anybody who wants to hear and maybe you want to put up questions, you can put up questions also on the blog. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was very, very useful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhir ji and
Thank
Nakul.
you. Thanks. So I'm ending the
Take
call.
care, everyone.
Okay.